And we are live for another session on the Oak and Rock Fatherhood YouTube channel. I am your host, Zachary Small, joined by Anthony Migliorino. Anthony, what's going on this evening?
Everything is good, brother. How we doing, Zach?
Doing really well. How's the family?
Family's good. We might get some background noise, but other than that, they're doing good. I got them on good behavior.
I'm very confident the dogs will make an appearance. Somebody will make an appearance, but this is a family-friendly show, so that's okay. Because when we're talking about fathers doing content, we're not dudes who are locked up in, some high-rise somewhere by ourselves to just talk and stream all night. We're dudes with families. My wife is over there crafting, and my kids are in bed because they're both wicked tired. Your house is full. That's a good thing. I
Yes,
think that's what
sir.
we need more of. I love seeing the dad accounts that are growing. I was just DMing a dude who's it seems like he's starting out in the dad Twitter space. So he's one of the ones who's recently joined. He's talking about family, talking about motivation, sharing his values and things. I'm like, dude, this is becoming a thing. Like dad Twitter has evolved from just, a bunch of dads talking about sports to like these are now men with families saying, no, we're going to the moon, man. We're going beyond it. We're going out and we're living connected lives. We're doing things with ourselves. These are strong dudes, lean dudes, wealthy dudes who are locking in every aspect of their life. They're not just sitting there talking about their favorite sports team and bitching about, oh, the ball and chain wife. I just want to go fishing. These are dudes who are like, no, I love my wife. I love my kids. We're all crushing it. We're going to win together and we're not going to succumb to just the nonsense that's going on in the world. And that's actually the topic of tonight. So we're going to be talking about abuse, recognizing it, preventing it, being the strongest champion in our child's corner because they're the ones in the ring of life, and we've got to coach them from the corner because we're not going to be there when they're in a lot of these situations. So, Anthony, we were talking earlier. You had brought that we have a few topics that we're looking to address, but the main one tonight is we're going to focus on how to connect and arm our children to prevent them from being taken advantage of. You see a lot of these stories out there on social media of just horrible, horrible things going on. And
Yeah.
one of the ones that was in the story, we had the girl who had to navigate the realm of the trans kids, and there was a boy in the girl's bathroom, and then she was taken advantage of. Some things went on there. You see a lot of things that have happened inside the church. You see a lot of things that have happened inside the political arena where these kids are being taken advantage of. They're being exploited by celebrities, by politicians on these massive scales where it's always overlooked. And everybody wonders, well, where are the parents? Well, it's
Yeah.
not just celebrities we're looking out for. So we're going to make sure we as parents are going to be involved, and nobody's going to ever ask, hey, where were you? You will be involved. You'll be stay ahead of the curve. It's a shitty topic, Anthony, but somebody has to address it. Somebody has to talk about it. So
It,
why not us?
it is a shitty topic. But like you said, right, these things happen and they get attention, and everybody's immediate response is, how did this happen? Right? How do we live in a country where 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys are getting sexually abused? How do we find out about these scandals where thousands of kids are getting molested, or that thousands of priests are getting charged with sexual allegations? Like, how does this stuff happen? How does it come to be? How are parents not aware, or how are they not understanding that these predators are out there? And how are the kids allowing, I shouldn't say the kids are allowing to happen, but how are they getting stuck in the crossfire? How are they in those positions where they don't know any better? They don't know to say no, right? They don't know to run away and go find somebody who's safe. Honestly, where are these kids' dads? Where are the fathers? I don't know what the number is, but I'm pretty sure it's 90% of kids who are abused. It's from a family member or somebody related to the family, and that's crazy. 90%. So that means that every child who's getting abused, almost, it's from somebody they know. And again, where are the fathers? Where where are the men who are supposed to be protecting them in their lives? You would think that somebody would step up and somebody would be protecting them. And to go a little bit deeper into the subject, I speak out against spanking all the time. I speak out against corporal punishment and hitting your kids. But we can't condition our kids to accept abuse in their home, in their lives. I don't care if it's physical abuse, if it's spanking them, hitting them, or if you're manipulating your kids or you're bribing them to change their behavior to fit your needs or do what you want them to do. And even, to even go further, a lot of times we tell our kids to go kiss a relative or go hug somebody, and we don't give them control of their body. We don't say that you're in control. You can do what you want. We force them to take away that power, right? We say go kiss that person, go hug that person. So if we want to be a good parent, that stuff needs to stop. And I think that's at the root of getting our kids to not accept abuse, not accept the violence, and not accept anybody violating their body or their property of who they are.
What's interesting about that is when I look over it, as I try to put myself into my mind as a kid, and you can't do that. You simply, it's not possible. And I'm definitely 100% ripping from our recent conversation with Jared McLean. So he's going through his PhD in psychology. And one of the things he said, that's dropping Monday, so make sure you're subscribed, you'll catch that video. One of the things he said is, as adults, we think we remember what it was like as a 6-year-old. We think we remember what it's like as a teen, but we can't. You can't go back unlearning the things that you know and put yourself in that mindset, because you just can't. That's how your brain can't just data dump and pretend to that degree. So these kids, we're like, well, they'll know the difference. They know that when grandma's allowed to kiss them, but Uncle Joe shouldn't kiss them like that. They'll know the difference. Well, when you're telling your kid, and this is something I was doing, but you're the reason that I understood why it worked and made sense. I was like, you don't have to share the toys if you don't want to share the toys. I was like, you don't have to kiss this person or hug that. Like, I never made them do those things, but to me, I was doing it because the same reason I don't make them finish their plate of food. If you're full, you're full. If you don't want to share your toy, that's your damn toy. Like self-sacrificing, giving all your stuff away is what is that? I can't even think of the term right now. But that's not the ultimate sign of good. I don't know if it's altruism, but giving everything away, making everybody else a higher priority than yourself is not the greatest God out there. That doesn't make you a good person. So I never made them do that either. And when it came to the hugging and kissing, I was like, look, if you don't like them, like maybe the breath stinks. Who am I to tell you, hey, go give them a hug? You're not disrespecting your grandmother by not giving her a hug. You're a kid who doesn't want to hug this lady. Maybe she should brush her teeth better or whatever it is, And I come from a family of huggers. So my kids, big hugs, they're all about it. We're not really big kissers. Like, I'll kiss them on the forehead or give them a hug, but that's about the extent of that. But when you tell a kid, certain people are allowed to hit you. I'm your dad, I'm allowed to hit you. Certain people, you have to hug and kiss them. Those family members, you have to do that. You've taught the kids, as you said, you've been conditioned that they must override their instinct for the better or the acceptance of others. Well, when Uncle Joe, Uncle Bob, Uncle whatever the hell you want to call him, when this dude rolls in and he has ill intentions for your child, and your kid thinks, well, I have to do what they say. They're an adult. They said, I'm going to get in trouble by my dad. And if as a father, you've not had that talk with your kid to let them know, I will never have a problem. I will never be upset. If you tell me the truth, we will just sit and we'll talk about it. If you're back to our point on drugs and alcohol, if you're drunk, come here. Okay, you drink. We're fine. We're going to figure out why you're doing this, but you're good. I'm not going to be mad at, like, there's no reason for me to be upset with you. We'll talk about these things. We'll go through it. But me screaming at you, that's not going to fix anything. If you've not had that talk with your kid about interacting with other people, they will be afraid to tell you that they're hurting. And that is the worst pain I think any parent could feel. As a father, for your kid to be, I was afraid to tell you of what they were doing to me because I was afraid you'd be mad at me. That is sickening to even think about. That because I didn't have that talk and open that avenue with my child, that they felt all that pain and hid it and tucked it in deep because they were afraid they were doing something wrong because some sick fuck wanted to take advantage of their innocence. And again, these talks are not easy. This isn't fun. I'm sure on your Wednesday afternoon, you'd love to be talking about anything else. But these are the talks that will prepare you to face the evil. It'll prepare you to see in the dark. And so when the things that are moving around, you're not scared of them because you've been armed. You're prepared. You walk out there like, look, if somebody tries to do something, your kid knows I can go to my dad. Or in a public situation, they know my dad told me how to handle this. So you still might lose. Your kid might get his ass kicked. They might get in trouble. Something might happen at school. So technically, it could be a net loss for sure. But damn, the consequences of your kid getting in a fight is far greater than your consequence of allowing someone to take advantage of your child.
You can't say it enough, Zach. Right? We need to have these tough conversations. We need to talk to our kids. We need to not only educate them, but let them know that they can come to us. That we're not going to get mad. Um, they express something that we might disagree with, or even we're not sure. We're uncertain about. We got to open up the conversation. You need to speak to your kids, um, not like adults, but on a level that's appropriate, on a level that is going to build trust. We look out in the world right now, and when you were talking, one thing that came to my mind is the bullying epidemic that's happening. Right, all these adults are talking about how kids are so bad to each other, how they bully each other, how they mistreat each other, and they're being mean, and they're cyberbullying and making fun of each other on social media, and it just makes me think how I'm going to say this in a nice way, but how ignorant some parents are, that they don't understand that children are born, they're born clear. They have a clear slate. They don't know anything. And everything they learn, their behaviors come from us. Children are reflections, they're mirrors of society. So what they see going on in their home, what they see happening to them from other adults, they are projecting it out onto other kids, right? They don't just little kids just don't get up and say, I want to be bad. I want to hurt somebody's feelings. They're expressing things that have been done to them. If you're physically hitting your kid, they're going to go out and they're going to say, hey, when I get angry or I get upset, dad lets his frustration out on me. So this little kid's bothering me. I'm going to do the same. And this is what we're teaching our kids, but we don't see it for some reason. We always have to dump it on the children. But getting back, I don't want to get too sidetracked, to the protecting, to preventing abuse, to keeping kids safe. Right, that's the main goal. The spear and the shield, keep our kids protected. Sick people, evil people in the world, they know what kids to pick on. They know what kids to grab, and that's a reality, right? There's something that is they're drawn to the weaker kids, the kids who are abused at home, the kids who are neglected, the kids who just need somebody to speak to, the kids whose parents aren't speaking to them. These predators, they go right after those kids. So back to your point, we just need to have clear communication. We need to make sure that not only do our kids trust us, but that they trust themselves enough to talk to us. Right? It's okay if we keep saying, hey, you could talk to me about anything. You could talk to me about anything. But if we weren't building our kids up, if we weren't building their self-esteem up and telling them how great of a person they are and that they should just love who they're becoming, all the hard work and dedication. And once they feel good about themselves, they trust themselves. And then those conversations will happen. You can't just demand it and say, tell me everything that's wrong. I'll protect you. It doesn't happen like that.
No, but you hit the nail on the head right there with self-worth. How many kids sit there, they sit there and they think they're just shit because all they're told by everyone is what they did wrong. Dad will never say, hey, good job, kid. No, dad rolls in because don't make me get your father. You did something wrong. And then mom, she's distracted with, scrolling the phone, or she's trying. Society has been, like, with surgical precision, created to keep us distracted and focused on everything else and just never satisfied. And unfortunately, that blended from we're never satisfied with ourselves to we're never satisfied with our kids either. Nothing they do is good enough. Nothing they say is good enough. Compared to the people online, they're never good enough. And we're the first set of parents who have social media with children. My parents didn't have fucking social media. I'm 34 years old. I'm a younger parent to an almost teenager. I'm like right at the end and the beginning of the other. I'm in that little middle ground where I almost had social media before I even had kids. I didn't really play that game. I was in the military. I didn't want to do all that, but I could have. Like, it was around before I had kids. So we're the first generation where our kids can look back and see who were my parents before they were my parent. And and the point of getting to with this, if you're sitting there and you've allowed it to tell you that you're not good enough, and that has now bled into your kids are not good enough, well, now your kid is the easiest target for anybody to pick up because all they want is someone to give them the time of day. And you see dudes like Sean Whalen, you see guys, I think Steve Weatherford's a part of it. All these guys that are going out there and they're dealing with the sex trafficking that's going on, the underage kids that are getting snatched up. One of the things they keep talking about is they're coming from broken homes. And I did a podcast with Mike Cernovich where he spoke about how people, the people that want to take advantage of these kids and these broken families, they love war. Because when you can go into a country and you can destroy all their warriors, you take their strongest men out and you break all those families up, the only people left are the evil rats who want to go and take advantage of these innocent kids and the people who want the chaos, because that's a new supply of bodies. It's fucking disgusting. But if we have parents who are at home, have every tool at their disposal, and they still aren't connected to their kids, they're no different than that family that's been blown to pieces over in Afghanistan or whatever country right now is getting blown to shit. They are at literal war, yet we're here and our kids are being taken advantage of too because we can't give them the time of day. So even though we're there daily, you're an absent parent and you're not arming your children to go out into the world. And somebody will say, hey, kid, I do love you. Hey, kid, you are good enough. Now come here. Let me show you how much I love you. Or, hey, young man, your dad didn't say you're a man, but we do. Check out our gang. And now they've got a new supply of bodies into the gang. And now your kids, instead of playing youth sports, they're running the streets, doing stupid shit, getting themselves in trouble. And your girls are using their bodies to get attention from men because dad wouldn't say, I love you.
Whoa. Oh, man.
It's a fun topic, man.
Yeah, man.
Because you start really thinking about it. You start really thinking about what's going on, man. And it's easy to see, like guys like us, we're doing this. Like we're already having these talks. If you're gonna come after my kids, man, like you had better fucking have some. These kids, not even me, just the kids alone. They are so fucking confident with who they are, and they know exactly where their dad stands. I trust my kids before I trust other adults. We're on the level now where my kids, they get first crack at my inner circle. I'm not gonna say, oh, you're wrong because that's an adult and that's a peer of mine. They get first level of respect. No, fuck no. Those are my children. So if my family were to be the target, it would be so much work to try to crack this shell. It wouldn't be worth their time. They'd be found out well before anything could happen. So they go for the easy targets.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about this, like, of course you get it. Of course I get it because we're doing it. But these people that are listening, I don't think they understand how fucking literal and serious this can be. You don't want your kid to be the one that's on that milk carton. I don't want anybody at all to go through that. That's fucking horrible. But if we're not going to talk about it, and if you're not going to listen, be like, oh shit, you know what? This is real. Like this is not, let's get some fucking likes on YouTube. Let's fucking do this. Like I see dudes like Cernovich. I see dudes like Whalen who are literally putting their shit in the middle of the arena. Whalen's going like undercover. Cernovich is like walking the middle of press conferences, asking the very difficult questions. These dudes, and there are many more that I can't think of right now because I'm on air and my brain's not working. But there are a lot of other dudes I'm following that I see doing this all the time because they're trying to make a difference and push back. But imagine if every father did that. We're watching these 1, 2, 5, 10 dudes. Imagine a million fathers marching together saying, fuck that, we're done. That whole dads on duty video we did, something like that, taking charge. But instead of just shutting down violence in schools, why don't we shut down violence in homes? What happens then? Because then you'll lose the violence in the community. You'll lose, and it'll all spread from there. Because like you said, kids are born good. They learn bad. I'm sure people have seen the video or the meme where the adult's yelling, it's going in the back of the kid's head, it's coming out of the kid's mouth. That's what the fuck's happening. But the problem is always negative.
Yeah, man. Brother, listen, I'm just letting you run with it because you're on a roll. You left me pondering what the hell was going on, what we're talking about, man, when you got into the sex trafficking and all that stuff. It's insane. I was gonna say, go even those war-torn countries, and it's insane what is happening and why it's being allowed. But even going back to the domestic abuse or within the home, there's so many cases where kids are getting violated sexually, physically, and it's like nobody cares. right? It's like nobody, even the parents that I speak to that are still hitting their kids, spanking their kids to discipline them. No, I guess nobody wants to deal with it. Nobody wants to face that pain or face the horror of it, right? That they'd rather see it come out later and say, "Oh, who knew?" Right? How did that happen? Instead of addressing it at the core, right? Instead of saying, "Hey, if I'm going to be a good parent, I really need to stop abusing my kids. I need to stop doing this. This isn't acceptable." But going back to what we've been talking about all night, where are the fathers? Where are the men holding other men accountable? Right? Where are these conversations where we can just let go of another man saying, "Yeah, I hit my kids. Um, I'm disciplining them. I'm teaching them how to behave." The one thing the one incident that got me really upset was the football player Adrian Peterson, where he was hitting his kid with a stick, whipping him with a stick, a switch they call it. And they interviewed this guy, and he was like, "Yeah, this is what I do with all my kids." And I think he had like 6 or 7 kids from all different women, and they weren't coming down on him as hard as they should, right? They were like, "Oh, it's going to go to court. We're going to see if it was abuse." The guy was physically beating his kids with sticks, leaving welts on their body.
Did you see
And
the photos from that?
yeah,
Yeah.
but nobody was calling for this guy's head. Nobody cared because he's a football player, because he can run fast with a pigskin. Nobody, it didn't matter. I don't know why it didn't matter. I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but when you hear stories like that, it's insane what we do to children, what children have to endure, what they have to go through from the people who are supposed to protect them. It's
Well, and that's the thing too. They're not invisible citizens. They're not. They're there. You can see them. But why are we not addressing them? Like, why are we not meeting them at their level? I to your point, we'll call it what it is. The dude is an entertainer. He goes and runs that pigskin really fast and really hard, and that entertains people. I'll overlook you beating your kid for that.
yeah.
There's another dude. I can't think of his name right now, but that dude, he like knocked his wife out on video in like an elevator. That dude, I don't know what happened to him, but there was a lot of argument against it. Like, I think he was removed from the league. But again, another one where a lot of people were like, "Oh, well, she must have deserved it," or why do we go after the victim? Why do we go out of our way to do the mental gymnastics to like, "Hey, it's your fault. You must have said something." Listen, the dude punched a woman in the face and like knocked her out. This dude beat a kid with a stick. Why? Well, because they were brought up to where that was normal. That's where they come from. That's what was allowed because nobody saw them as kids. And they never had to go through the evolution of addressing their own shit. So they never healed from that. So it continued. I don't understand how walking out, picking a stick, coming back and telling my kid to pull his pants down and then hitting him with that stick is not abuse. I don't understand how that's teaching him discipline. "Oh, I'm sorry, kid, you spilt the paint. That must have been a mistake. I've never made a mistake in my life, though. Let me beat the shit out of you. You'll learn something then. Let me show you." Fuck that. That's not the world we operate in. Because look, and again, "Oh, it must have been the girl's fault. That's why she got picked up. You were raped because of what you were wearing." What the fuck? What kind of sick, twisted mind do you have to go out of your way to say it's your fault that man could not control his sexual urges? It's sick. It's unacceptable, and there's nobody that gets a pass. This is not gray area. I don't give a fuck if you're Epstein, you're Clinton, I'm trying to like who the fucking top celebrity is right now. Like, you see these dudes, and because of their position, they get away with it until that position falls apart and they're no longer needed, and then it all crumbles, like the Weinstein whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, anybody could have stopped.
Look at Penn State.
Yeah.
For decades, raping boys in the shower, and nobody said anything.
And why were those boys? Where is anybody going to any father?
Well, because they had a really good football team. It's insane. And again, with the kids, I think as a society we've accepted that men are physically stronger and they shouldn't be beating on women I would agree that most men, I'm sure you would agree, most men would frown upon that or would say, "Hey, dude, don't hit your lady, don't hit a woman." But for some reason, we still can't get past that with children. For the people in society who have no voice, who can't speak up, like we say this all the time, who can't leave the home, they're stuck there with you. Why are those men still abusing their kids? Why are they not protecting them? And I know I keep asking that question, but
No, it's a good question because eventually somebody's going to think, oh shit, I can't think of an answer either. But even when you look at that, look at all the videos where you see these dudes. I saw this teenager getting his ass kicked by this group of dudes, and he kept putting his hand like this. And it was some black dude kicking the shit out of some white dude. I don't know if it was a race thing. I have no idea the story behind it. But the kid just had his hand in the air and was getting his ass, like he was getting punched in the fucking face, man. And he did nothing. And I'm like, where's your dad? Like, why has a father not told you that nobody, for any reason, at all ever, gets free access to your body? Even you, another one, the videos with the girls were beating the shit out of the guys. And the guy's just taking it, like he's bleeding from the face and she's clawing at him. Dude, I'm not saying knock her the fuck out, but you can restrain a female.
yeah,
You know? And if you're getting a thumb to your eyeball and you've got to go beyond that, then you go beyond that to protect yourself. Nobody, literally nobody, gets free access to your body. There's nothing noble about getting your ass kicked for no reason. You know, like there's nothing impressive. Oh, I turned the other cheek. Motherfucker, you just compromised everything. They could have killed you if they wanted to. You know, that's not being strong. You know, and they've perverted the whole turn your other cheek because let's not forget this Jesus was walking around flipping tables and beating people with canes and shit. Oh, you're a fucking pimp? Let's fucking hang out. Oh, you're some asshole collecting the taxes? I'm gonna fuck you up. And you're like, yo, this is the guy saying turn the other cheek? No. There are times I'm gonna be the bigger man. Dude, a lot of times online, I'm like, I'm gonna say some shit and it's gonna fucking blow up and I shouldn't do it. I'm gonna be the bigger man. I'm gonna walk away and not say anything. You know? Other times when it's real fucking personal or if we're in person, no, fuck no. Well, let's do this. You know, that's the only way that you have respect as a man. And if you're not teaching your children from time, there will be times where it's time to square up. It's time to defend yourself. You don't get punched in the face and put your hands in the air because, hey, teacher, I'm not fighting. Motherfucker, it's time to fight. You have to stand your ground. And there will be times where your sons and daughters are going to have to stand their ground. But these parents, they're not talking to their kids about what happens if you see someone from the opposite sex in your bathroom because your school has the whole trans thing going. You know, why have you not told your daughter to tell the teacher if they're doing this shit, why haven't you pulled your kid out of the school? Start there. If there are men going to my daughter's, fuck no, we're homeschooling, we're popping smoke. That is not normal. That's not fucking right to these kids. But the second thing, if you're keeping your child in there because you have whatever situation that requires it, why have you not told your child, hey, teacher, you guys want to play these stupid fucking reindeer games? I need a kid to come with me, a female kid to go with me or male, whatever your son, daughter, to the bathroom because I'm not going alone because I don't feel comfortable being alone in there. Because if somebody rolls in of the opposite sex, it's just going to be a bad, there is no win there. There is nothing that either they can say you did something, you said something, or they can take advantage of you. You know, so there's literally no win. But parents aren't even talking about these things. I've already told my kids this. I've told my kids about the whole fighting thing. I've talked to my kids about drugs. I try to think of every scenario so they know I'm okay to talk to my dad. Or I know what's going on. I have an idea as to how to handle this situation. Not telling your kids about the bad of the world is not going to keep them from experiencing the bad of the world. It's going to happen. But is your kid going to be prepared? That's the real question. And if you're not talking to them about it, the answer is no.
All right. I'm back.
I killed enough time for you to get that drink.
I love it. No, but hey, listen, Zach. How do we tell fathers, or how do we convince fathers that this is important, that we need to make sure that our kids are ready for the world, right? That how we interact with them, the words we say. We did a whole video on this, the language and the tone in your home. Every time we interact with our kids, we are setting them up to either fail or succeed in life. And we need to be aware of that, right? We need to understand how powerful our impact is. We need to understand that our influence needs to be greater than all the craziness and all the chaos that's going on in the world. This way, when our kids are in difficult spots, they're not going to back down from sticking up for themselves. And I don't care if it's sticking up for themselves, if a kid on the playground takes their toy, or if somebody's in the bathroom with them that makes them uncomfortable. Any scenario, at least they will have the self-esteem or the confidence to speak up, right? To not let people abuse them. And the hope would be that there would be some strong adult who would hear them and who would come to the rescue. I don't know how much of that's going on in society. That's why we need to keep encouraging fathers to parent based on principles, to know your values, what you value in life. Are you a good man? Are you working to become a better man? Right? And we don't hit kids. We don't hit anybody. We don't hit our wife. We don't hit our friends. So we don't hit kids, period. It ends right there. There's no debate as far as I'm concerned. If you want to be a good man, if you don't want to be a good man, then be honest and say, hey, you know what? I don't want to grow. I want to smack my kid. I want to abuse somebody who's 5 times my size. Don't lie to yourself, right? Face those demons. I don't know. So I think I think a lot of it is accountability. We can no longer as a society allow men to get away with that shit.
You know, you start to roll there and like you're right at the edge and you pull it back. One of these days you're gonna just let it go and just fucking let it riff, man. Like you were almost there just now, but you're absolutely correct, dude. You know, just call it for what it is. Just stop saying you want to be something if you don't want to do the work to become that thing. You know, I could not agree more. That was a good fucking rant. I thought you were gonna go, man. It was good. So I will say this, you know, when it comes to having the hard conversations, I always try to go with the immediately applicable advice. Like, what can I tell these dudes on this video that's going to get them to do this thing? Like, what can I do? And right now, that's obviously what I'm thinking. How can we, what can I say right now that these dudes are going to be like, all right, I get it. I'll go do that. The first one, it's not weird to speak up and engage. It is such an ingrained taboo thing in men. Handle your shit, be quiet about it, shut up, sit in the corner and color. That's basically what you're told your whole life. Boys are broken girls. You need to be medicated. That's why we're fucking on Ritalin 4 times the fucking average rate of females, if not more. You know, just sit there, be quiet. Nobody wants to hear what you have to say. That's basically the message given to men for a very long period of their life. But when you break that, when you start doing what right looks like, which is speaking with other men, having the conversations, then all of a sudden it's normal to talk about fatherhood. It's normal to step up and volunteer for your kids' sports. It's normal to engage in the community. Well, keep following that fucking line of thought. It's normal to step up and, hey, kid, are you okay? You look uncomfortable with these other kids. And it's not a strange thing for an adult to speak to a kid because you're not some fucking pedophile. You're an adult man who is a safe harbor to these kids. That question could save a life, man. It could save a life being destroyed. Hey, are you okay? Is everything all right? Oh, hey, I saw you guys doing this. Hey, what's up, guys? You having a good? All right, cool. Just checking in. And then there's nothing weird about you speaking up. So speak up. That's a great place to start. If you see something, say something. I know that's kind of trite, but it's real. You know, like if you see trash on the sidewalk, I'd assume in your neighborhood, you're walking around, I'll pick this up, I'll throw it in the trash can because I don't want my neighborhood to look like shit. It's all of our job to work together. Yeah. If my kids are out there and something's popping off at the playground, I hope any local father is going to step up and be like, hey, kids, come here. Let's get you safe. Like, that's what dads do. I can't be everywhere. That's why I need a strong network of men. I need a group that I can rely on. The same thing with you. That's why we're doing this. And that's why when you grow your network, you have your conversations, not just with your family, but when you're leading all the fatherhood conversations and you're writing for Peaceful Fathers, you're expanding that network for more men to be a little more normalized or comfortable with that conversation. And now, obviously, I'm at the point where, dude, you tell me right now, hey, let's go give a fucking presentation to 500 people. All right, cool. I don't even need to write a speech, dude. I'll just fucking wing it. I don't care. I would rather say something and look like an idiot than not say something and have a kid's life get destroyed. I would rather say something and speak up and be like, hey, are you good? And have a dude say, oh, man, no, I'm not good. I was about to jump off that fucking bridge. But, dude, you reached out and asked me if I'm good. Look, I'm going through divorce. I'm going through this. I lost my parents. Like, COVID stressed me out, whatever. That shit's happened. Not to jumping off the bridge, but just random talks. Hey, how are you doing, man? Like, you just look really tired. And that's super offensive. I mean, it could be. Hey, dude, you look like shit. But then guess what? A, I don't give a fuck. Again, back to that. Like, I don't care about your feelings. I see something I'm trying to say to help. And B, when they unload, it's like the first time they feel heard. And they're like, shit, I was able to get that off my chest. I feel much better. Imagine if you did that with your kids.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. They'll be like, thanks, Dad. I was able to get that off my chest. Like, I've been carrying that around. I saw this, I did this, I said this, I heard this, whatever. And it's been so heavy in me, eating away, bringing me down. All you have to do is ask them. And they can just unload it to you. And that's your job, man.
Yeah, those men that you're speaking about, those are guys who never had a voice as a kid. They were never able to speak up. So that's a lot of suppressed or repressed pain throughout the years, right? That's what you're seeing so many broken adults because their childhoods were completely destroyed. What do we got? Jimmy G.
Jimmy G says the time to have the hard conversations with our kids is when everything is fine instead of the heat of the moment. Talk to them beforehand. So in the moment, they know what to do.
Yes, sir. Wise words. As you can never be too prepared. And that's to bring it to the parenting aspect, right? That's an excellent point. So many parents try to solve problems in the heat of the moment when the kids are flipping out, when the kids are melting down, and they wonder why their parenting is not effective. They wonder why the kids don't listen. In those, we say this all the time. You need to, instead of reacting, you need to respond. But in those moments when your kids are in trouble or going through pain, those are the times where you need to be the calm in the storm. And that's when you build trust. That's when you build connection with your kids. And when you build that, when things are quiet, when things are, what did he say? Fine, when everything's fine. Those are when you can have real conversations. That's when the guard is down, the emotions are low, and your kids can open up, right? They can be themselves. They don't have all this anger or frustration running around their mind. They're not tired. They're not high strung. And you guys can actually sit down and have a good conversation. And this is any age. This isn't just little kids. This goes to teenagers, to young adults, right? I see this all the time. The best way to connect with your kids is when things are good. And we tend to, as adults, want to push the issue and keep talking when things are bad. And we know how that escalates, right? That never has a good outcome. It always gets a little more crazy.
But that's the thing too, is when you go through the training, your kids know why. So when something happens, they know what they're looking for. So they might be, if you have these preventative talks with your kids, you might arm them with the skill sets and the social or situational awareness to stay out of an issue or a situation before it even happens. So by talking to your kids before things get bad, they might see like, oh shit, like this is what dad was talking about. This is about to get really bad. Like I'm super uncomfortable. These guys are like, oh, hey, let's go to the secluded area. Like, no, I want to go home. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm out. Hey, they already know the system. My dad's on the way. I know we've been drinking. He doesn't give a fuck. He's going to come pick us up. My dad's not going to be, hey, whoever's here, not comfortable, come with me. My dad's going to come get me. If you didn't talk to them before then, they might be like, oh, yeah, let's totally go in the woods with these strangers. They're cool dudes. You didn't arm them. They're naive. Those people might have said the nice things that you don't say as a dad. Your kids might have been very vulnerable to it because, hey, they just want love and mom and dad don't show it. So now their kids are open to it and they're going to go to the woods and they're going to get their asses kicked. They're going to get robbed or even worse. The many things that can happen. It's not anything I wish to befall any parent. So again, the reason I bring it up is because I want you to be aware of what's out there so you can arm your kids to be ahead of it. Just like Jimmy said, have the talk when things are good. Build your umbrella, build your raft, your ark before it starts fucking raining. Because when the floodgates open, you want to be able to just jump in that thing and go. You don't want to be sitting there trying to build it and while it's all pouring on you.
Yeah.
We have a question in the chat from Sarah Kennedy. Right. Any suggestions on getting a spouse on board to the no spanking? That's an excellent question. This actually comes up quite frequently. So this is a good one. But I'm not going to say go watch the other videos because we did answer it. But each time I do, it's interesting because you see it more and more, which to me means more and more parents are checking this out. And they're like, all right, I saw your video. I'm not going to tell my spouse I was watching YouTube videos, not spanking. So how do I bring this up to them? That's kind of how I always see the question. So
Yeah.
Anthony, how do you bring it up to the spouse?
Get your spouse on board to the no spanking. Obviously, we don't want to spank our kids. We don't want to hit them. And I guess it depends really, but I would say in my house, being a father, obviously, well, I don't put any obviouslies out there, but in my home, being a father, I had to have a set of values that I believed in. And there were things that I felt passionately about, I felt strong about, and there were things that were part of me as a man. Um, and we never did hit our kids, but we knew that we weren't going to. So I say if you have a strong conviction, you have to definitely talk to your spouse about it. You have to, and this goes so this goes back to even before you have kids. This is going to be when you meet, you're sharing your life, you're sharing your values, you're sharing what your family's going to look like in the future. It's about being prepared. You have these talks before you have kids, but this way you guys have a good understanding of your values as a parent, what you're going to do, what you're not going to do. I would never want to marry somebody who is going to be abusive to my kids. That would put me in a really bad spot. It would be really difficult if you're with somebody and they're physically hitting your kids and you don't want them to, and you want them to stop. On the flip side, if you're a woman and you're trying to get your husband on board and maybe he is hitting, I don't know the whole situation. I would say that you really have to convince them, right? You have to convince them of what good men do, what the right way is, and have good arguments to why we shouldn't be hitting our kids. There's so many, and I hate to beat a dead horse because I always talk about this, but there's so many studies that show how detrimental spanking, not even corporal punishment or physical violence, but spanking is to the development of your child's brain. Increased aggression, increased criminality, increased drug abuse, increase to allow another partner to use domestic violence against them. So there's really no benefits to spanking your kids, to hitting them. I would talk to your spouse about that, right? Try to get them on board by giving them the truth of why you shouldn't do it.
Yeah, to jump on the other side of that, you're in the relationship. Maybe you guys have been doing corporal punishment; it's been the norm, and now you're looking to go a different way. I think it's like any other aspect of evolving as a marriage. If you're looking to try a new diet, you came across something, like something spoke to you, and you're like, look, I don't look the way I want to look. I want to look better for you. I want us to be healthier together. Whatever it is, it speaks to you, and so the conviction is where that's going to be found. If Jackie's like, hey, this is cool, we should try this. All right, cool. If she comes up, she's like, hey, I've really been thinking this is something I want to do with my life, or something I want to go, or something I want to try. She'll get much more of my attention. Like, all right, are we serious about this? Like, what are we talking about here? Let's have a real discussion on it, and not some like, all right, brush it off. This conversation has to be like that. If you've really gotten to the point where you're like, I don't see there being any positive to striking the child, to hitting my kid at all, to spanking them, and anything. If I'm seeing this and I don't like it, and this is not what I want to do anymore, then in your heart of hearts, you need to go to your spouse and say, hey, this is changing in me. I'm evolving, and I think we should do this together. I think this is what's right for our family. And there's always the dynamic of like, all right, who's leading this relationship? And a lot of the conversations, and a lot of the relationships I've seen work, the men are leading the relationship. But that doesn't mean that their spouse has no input. And that's always a tricky subject because people get weird about how it's working. But look, somebody has to be driving the ship. So the way I see it is like I see I'm the captain and Jackie's my first mate and the kids are the crew. We're all going, the ship has to work together. We have to work together for it to go where we want it to go. But somebody has to steer and, all right, we should go this way, that way. A buddy of ours, Phil Foster, he says judge and jury. And I was actually thinking of that during this. Is like he's the judge. He'll make the sentence. But if Sarah, if you're coming up and you're the lawyer and you give a good convincing argument, and you change his mind. If Jackie gives me a good like, hey, we shouldn't spank anymore, I'm like, you know what? That's interesting. I'd never thought of that, but let's try it. Like, I think your reasoning sound. You're not emotional about this or freaking out or like it's a fad, but you want to change our lives. Yeah, maybe it's time to evolve and get better. That the best marriages improve with age. You should be evolving. So if this is a conversation you're having with your spouse, I would treat it like that. Like, here is a way for us to evolve and be better parents and better connect with our kids. And I obviously am entirely biased. Look at the name of the fucking show. Look at what we're talking about. Like, I'm all on board with the peaceful parenting. So I do definitely think it'd be one of the best decisions you could make. But getting someone else to see that, you know them better than us. You have to say the right words to get them to see that light.
Yeah, you have to definitely keep raising the standards of your life in every area, right? If you once upon a time you thought that Twinkies were good for you and nutritious, and then you started eating broccoli, you realize there's a difference. Same thing with our parenting, right? We have to evolve, like you said, Zach. You have to get better. You have to have higher standards. And once we start to realize, and it's not even from a moral standpoint, right? Saying, oh, hitting people is bad, let's not hit our kids. When you stop hitting them, their behavior changes, right? They are no longer in pain or in fear of their parents. And then that's when you have to start getting creative and you have to start finding better ways to solve problems than physical violence, because we don't want to teach our kids that that's how we solve problems, is by hitting people. And if that is something that you do, chances are your kids are going to copy that, right? They're going to mirror what you're doing. They're going to hit other kids. They might hit their spouse. Who knows how far it's going to go. One thing I wanted to speak on when you were talking about the family unit and how we can help families, how we can help fathers, mothers prevent abuse. When you were talking about your family, I was thinking about mine, and my wife has stayed home and raised our kids. I went out and worked. And how this is so important to understand and realize that we need parents raising our kids. And I don't want to get too far into the discussion of government and taxes, because we got that coming up. So I don't want to give away too much. But it is extremely important to have the mother or the father raise their children. Don't send them to daycare. Don't send them to places that the government, the state, or unqualified individuals are going to be raising them. People who could be violating them sexually, physically, right? The best thing we can do for our kids is make sure they're home with us. Make sure that one of the parents, if not both, are raising them with as much intention as they can. And that is a great way how you're going to protect your kids from those beady-eyed fucking evil people in the world.
So Sarah said, thank you so much. I'll share this with him. We've had a few conversations about it, and he's almost convinced, but still believes that any unruliness is a result of not spanking. I think that, hey, that is a common theme. But look, if he's even open to the conversation, it's beautiful to hear, because it does mean he's open to the discussion. He's open to evolving, to learning. And look, there's a lot of men who will not budge from their ways. So when I see that, just the fact that he's open to even having this talk, a lot of families, they shut it down too quick. And those are the guys we're really chipping away on. Because if you could just see, like, hey, there was a time where the PlayStation 1 was the greatest console in the goddamn world. But time kept going and things had to improve and things had to change. And guess what? The same goes with parenting. We're living in a world where fathers are ripped out of the home, mothers are ripped out of the home. As you're saying, kids are being raised by people they don't know. And that's bringing it all the way back to war-torn countries. That example, these families are split and the connections aren't happening. And to see just discussions like that, Sarah, I mean, that fills me with hope, because that's what this is all about. It's getting to the point where we can spread that and start letting other people see there's a new way to do things. We don't have to do it the way these people did it. We don't have to do it the way our parents did it. It's okay to change and evolve. And in fact, it's necessary. If we want kids prepared for 2021 and beyond, we need to raise them for 2021 and beyond. I'm not saying don't teach them those old life lessons. Some things are universal. They'll be here forever. Good morals and values from 1900s, 1800s, 1700s to now are relatively similar. Don't be an asshole, and just do your thing and leave a positive mark on the world. Smile more than you don't. You know, that's what it really boils down to. But if you're going to sit there and say, well, the best way for me to raise my kid in 2021 is to keep hitting him with sticks and spanking them and just all the other shit that people do, well, why do you think that? I mean, the world is an absolute clusterfuck. What if we stopped doing that? What could the world be? You know, like, yeah. What would the world be if all the people now that were all spanked saying that they're fine? Well, look at what's going on. We're not fine. Dudes are like lining up with smiles in their face to get jabbed in the arm. Chicks are lining up to get their asses kicked by dudes in their own sport because now things are like nobody will say no. There's so much backwards and so much wrong, and nobody wants to address it. And they're going to say, well, it has nothing to do with how we were raised. Motherfuckers, it has everything to do with how you were raised. You're tolerating everything because you've never been taught to say, no, here's my personal boundaries. You're not going to cross these, you know, because, well, dad was allowed to cross them. And then other people were allowed to cross them. And I had to let my boss cross them. And I had to make my wife happy so she can cross them. That's who's going now. My kids aren't going to be like that. They have their boundaries. Nobody crosses them. I don't cross them. And I'm their father. When you say, well, I have access because I'm their dad. Well, similar to what you were saying, Sarah, you know, their unruliness, you know, they're undisciplined. And that's why I need to hit them. I'm the dad. Man, my job is not to raise Navy SEALs. My job is not to raise Army soldiers. I'm not going to beat my kids into the dirt because that'll make them ready to wear a uniform. I want my kids to be good human beings. So if I let them run around a little bit, let them run around and play and get muddy. That's fine. They'll take a shower when they come in. You know, like they don't have to be perfect little squared away soldiers. They're kids. They need to be interacted with and dealt and raised like kids because you're their father. You're not their drill instructor.
No, but what she brought up, Zach, is a good point. He's spanking and he's convinced that that's stopping the unruliness because of the spanking. And that is instant gratification, right? That is by threats, fear of threats, and physical pain. We're teaching our kids to comply. We're teaching them to listen to us. So you will get that instant right compliance. They will obey in that moment. The one thing I would mention to her is that if it has to be continually done over and over, it's not effective. It's not working. So we want to make sure that everything we're doing as a parent, as a father, as a mother is effective, right? We want to parent effectively. We want to make sure that what we're teaching our kids about anything, about life, about finances, about relationships, that it's true, right? We want to send them down a direction that's working. We don't want them to keep making mistakes and falling back in those mistakes and never learning that in order to succeed, we need to learn from our mistakes and we need to move forward. So I can see why he might think that it's working, right? Because if the kid's screaming and yelling and he hits the kid and the kid stops, yeah, okay, it might have worked in that moment, but then next time it's going to happen. So it's not getting the results that you want. And furthermore, to go into it with the spanking, there's so many better ways to communicate with your kid, to get them to listen than physically hitting them, right? And number one is have a conversation. Number two is during that conversation, lower your voice. Make sure that you're not seen as a threat. Why would we want to be perceived as a threat or powerful to our kids? Do we really see them as a threat? Are we afraid of them? Why do we have to flex on them? So it's a tough spot to be in, and I can't imagine being in it. I don't know how bad it's affecting the relationship or if it's a serious problem. But I would definitely talk to your husband as much as you can about it, and try to convince him to have the best arguments that you can.
And those are the broad brushstrokes we have to paint with, because each situation is going to be unique. And while we talk about the solution being unique, the prescription is almost exactly the same for everybody. Like what I'm going to say to you might come across like the angle for you to take would be different, and for each family is different. But what I'm saying is basically the same thing. Remove one thing, replace with a better thing. All right. It's annoying. Oh, I know. Have you ever tried a new workout? That muscle sucks at first, but then it gets stronger. And you do squats 1,000 times, but now you do a front squat. Like, oh shit, why do I feel so different? Well, because the back squat was hitting certain muscles. The front squat, while still a squat, is a different type. Therefore, you're hitting different groups. You got to make those stronger too. Parenting is the same. I've been parenting for so long. Yeah, and you got really good at certain things. You knew how to use your command voice. You knew how to use your hand. You knew how to immediately jump on them. But you don't really know how to be a little more patient or how to have a conversation. And that leads to the next level of the conversation, which is how do you get more patient? What are you thinking about while you're sitting and listening? And it should be you're listening to your kid, but the angles you want to take with them. Is it direct conflict, or do you take a roundabout way to work them through their problem? It depends. And that's where it gets kind of a little more gray. How old are they? Is it a boy or a girl? What are they going through? What's the last thing that happened? There's a lot of context needed. But simple things like communicating with your kid, preparing them for the world. No, there's no secret here. We're just talking about the things that people don't want to talk about. We're giving a prescription they don't want to do because it requires work. It requires you to engage your kid. It requires you to not get lost flicking your phone, talking about being a great dad and how your family's all squared away with these big smiles on Facebook, and actually going into their room, sitting down and saying, hey, why are you crying? I just shared a photo of you smiling with me on Facebook. It has 1,000 likes. How come you're in here crying? Well, babe, that's where it really fucking counts, man. That connection with your kid is what matters. This thing, it doesn't mean shit. It's a little device. Connects you to the world, all sorts of information, but that's not your kid. And it's not going to help you with your kid. You sitting down and connecting with them, there's no electronic medium that you can use there. It's you and your child. The time of the day, distraction free. Hey, what's going on? I don't want to look like a good dad. I want to be a good dad. How can I help you? And then that is where you start that process.
I feel like we talk about spanking way too often.
We start on one thing, but it always comes back to that, dude. And it's funny because I had no intention of addressing corporal. I was going to focus on abuse, sexual abuse, being taken advantage of in society. Like that was my whole point this whole time. But it comes back to what's happening in the world. It starts in the home.
The home, yeah. 100%.
And then that's where we find the spanking. And that's where we're like, stop doing that. And then look how much more things we can jump on. But if you bring it all back to the house of cards, spanking is one of the bottom cards. Connection, but right next to it, corporal punishment.
Yeah. You want your child to have control of their life, of their body, and not let anybody violate it. And spanking is a violation of that. I don't care how or why you do it. Right? Spanking is violating your child's rights, no matter which way you want to turn it, sideways, upside down, whatever excuse you want to make. I'm the dad, I'm the boss, I'm in charge, it's my house. None of that matters. You're still violating your child's rights by physically hitting them. But it comes up often, so we definitely have to address it.
We'll keep jumping on it. All right. I'm going to put the last call for questions. We're going to keep rolling with it. But if you have a question, drop it into the chat now so we can address it and field it. I did have one, but I'm actually thinking we should just turn it into its own video. But I did have somebody DM me the question of what are some things dads shouldn't do? So I have a whole list in my head of the many things a father should not do. His context was in a social setting. Like what kind of things should you do in a house, at a party, when you're out with friends, when you're at the playground, like these things. He doesn't want to be viewed as the weak dad, but he doesn't know how to carry himself as a man. He doesn't have that confidence. So I think we'll turn that to a video of its own instead of just trying to answer it here. Because there's so much context to it. We'll roll for another hour anyway. So look, there's nothing dropped in there. If you want your kids to stop being taken advantage of, stop taking advantage of your kids. Stop using them as your personal outlet. Stop using them as the dumping ground of all the frustration, negativity you have. Start recognizing what's right with them. Start saying it. They can't hear your thoughts. If you see them do something right and you're like, oh, wow, that's really cool, and you walk away without saying a word, they don't know if you even liked it. And you could have loved it. But you're so uncomfortable with connecting and sharing feelings and emotions and putting yourself in a vulnerable position, you can't do it. And by not doing it, that leaves your child vulnerable to the world. For someone else to say, hey, kid, I like your art. I like what you built. I like what you did. I like you. Come over here. But their intentions might not be what your intentions are for your child. They might be nefarious. They might be evil. Just fucking horrible. Or they might just be something that pulls them away from you. Either way, you're losing your child because you don't want to go that little extra step for them where you actually have to do some work and feel some things. If you're not going to protect your child, the world is going to take your child. So either arm them, educate and connect with them, or understand you let them go before the world ever grabbed them.
That was a little dark to end it.
We can bring it up a little bit.
I
Hey, Anthony, you got the smile. You got the job. So what can they expect if they haven't already? Hey, there's a ticker in the bottom of the damn screen. It says like and subscribe. Like and subscribe if you like the videos we're doing. Every Wednesday, we've got the Q&A. Anthony's pulling me out of the hole. I'm pissed off. I'm in the worst. Oh, man. These fucking people, dude. Like, we're talking about kids. You start thinking about, like it's preventable, man. It's like, you're a dad. I put something out today on Twitter about how I don't want my kids to fear me. I don't want them to fear authority. And for a while, I was like, my kids know, like, I'm capable of doing whatever some serious fucking damage. I'm an in-shape 34-year-old man. I'm the strongest dude in this house, at least. Why would they want to be scared of me, though? Like, why would I ever want that? You know, like, if I had to pick, like, anybody, at least I can take Jackie. I can take the kids. My 2 dogs at the same time, maybe. But listen, you see some dads, and they're like, I want them to fear me. What the fuck do you want your kids afraid of you for? Like, what kind of flex is that? My son, he does what I say. Bro, he's 4. You're not tough.
Definitely not. All right, another great chat.
This has been another episode on Oak and Rock Fatherhood. Stay tuned. Friday, great video coming out. Next Monday, our next guest will be dropping. If you haven't already liked and subscribed, make sure you do that. Every Wednesday, we'll be coming at you live. Anthony, thank you for your time, brother. For everybody that spoke up, thank you for putting it out there, for listening, tuning in, and dropping your question. You guys have a great night.